Hi, everybody. Richie Faulkner here from Elegant Weapons and Judas Priest. You're listening to Metal Mayhem ROC with the Vernomatic.
Vernomatic Productions.
Are you ready?
Live from the Metal Mayhem Studios in Rochester, New York.
We are gold.
And heard around the world by metalheads just like you. This is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Heavy metal music.
Your weekly dose of metal music, interviews, album reviews, news, and more. Want to be part of the show? Send us a message through our website, metalmayhemroc.com, or hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Search Metal Mayhem ROC.
It's getting nice and heavy.
And now, welcome tonight's host, John the Vernomatic Verno.
Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well, staying safe, and especially staying healthy. This week, we have an interview with Richie Faulkner of Judas Priest. His other band, Elegant Weapons, has their second album, Evolution, out now, and Richie joins us to break it all down. There's a great moment in this conversation where Richie talks about a song he brought into a Judas Priest session. Rob sang it, but it didn't make the cut. Now it ends up on this Elegant Weapons record. Great story. We get into the vibe behind Evolution, who's in the band, how this lineup came together, and the working arrangement with his Priest bandmate Andy Sneap, who's the producer on all this. Towards the end, we shift gears, talking Judas Priest, what's next, the summer tour, 50 years in metal celebration, and Richie gives us a quick health update. All right, let's get into it. Here we go. Richie Faulkner, the Falcon. For Metal Mayhem ROC, I'm the Vernomatic. Our guest today is a first-timer to Metal Mayhem ROC, Richie Faulkner, Judas Priest the last 15 years, and Elegant Weapons. The band releases their second album. Richie, what's the vibe heading into this new release?
John, thanks for having me. It's been really positive so far, man. It's second record. Always worrying second record. The first record you've been working on for years usually. You've got a load of stuff. Second record, you've got to scramble to get it together. But it's been really positive. We're really proud of it. A lot of changes, the album's called Evolution. So there's been a lot of changes on this record in a positive way. And we can't wait for people to hear it.
What is the difference between the first one, Horns for a Halo, versus Evolution?
Well, it's the first record was done during COVID, so we did it completely differently. Everyone was under lockdown. We did it different places around the world. This one, we were able to record the drums and everything together as a unit, which gets a better performance, we believe. We're recording together. You fire off of each other. You're cohesive. You get that kind of core recording from the drums. Then you can build on top of that. We think it makes for more cohesive recording. We recorded the vocals differently, even though it was Zoom like we're doing now. Ronnie was in the studio where he is. Andy Sneap, the producer, was in his studio in the UK. I was in my studio over here in Nashville, and we were producing the vocals from the ground up. So let's change the vocal technique here. Let's use a different microphone. Let's change the wording, the phrasing. Let's try a harmony here. So we built them from the ground up. So we really got a better performance, I think, out of Ronnie. So, that was an evolution, if you like. And we feel like the songs have come on as a band. We feel like they've evolved. And I think this record shows a different side of the band that the first one didn't. So we've evolved in that sense as well. We think it's an appropriate title for the record.
You mentioned something, one word, 3 times, band. So it's safe to say Elegant Weapons is a band and not a Richie Faulkner solo album per se.
I was always interested in a band dynamic, like Priest, Metallica, Maiden, Pantera, all my favorite bands. It was never meant to be a solo project or anything. I spearhead the thing. I got the thing together initially. But when I approached the guys to be in the band, it was always about that. It wasn't like I was getting in session guys or anything like that. I wanted them to be in the band and bring their expertise and opinions to the band moving forward. So, yeah, I think that's, like Ozzy Osbourne, he always had great band members, and it made the band, even though it was Ozzy Osbourne, it was like Randy Rhoads and Tommy Aldridge, and you know what I mean? It was about the band, and I think that's a better dynamic rather than a solo project. But I did spearhead it, but that's what I want it to be moving forward,
Well, the first one was sort of a little more, Scott Travis on drums. You had Rex Brown But this second time, you have new guys. Introduce the new members of the band.
Right. So, yeah, obviously after COVID and everything got freed up again, obviously Scott was concentrating on Priest. Rex was concentrating on Pantera. So I had to get new guys in. Good friend of mine, Davey Rimmer from Uriah Heep. I've been friends with him for over 25 years. We used to play the bars and the pubs around London for years and years and years. So we've got a relationship that goes back quarter of a century. All those kind of holes in the wall, you know, lifting amplifiers out of pubs and stuff. We go way back, you know. Christopher Williams, a good friend of mine as well, is a local to me. You know, some of the best, I'm fortunate really, some of the best musicians that I know are best friends of mine, you know what I mean? And then, of course, you've got Ronnie Romero. We took it on tour in 2023 around Europe, and you bond as well as friends. We're friends anyway, but you bond even more. The songs, you play together, you get tighter as a band. And so when you go into the studio with that group of guys, it can only hopefully benefit from that. So it's me, myself, obviously, Ronnie Romero, you know, who needs no introduction, Davey and Christopher. And I think, you know, the band's firing on all cylinders. I'm really proud of it.
You know, you mentioned Christopher Williams. Just last week, I was speaking with Jeremy Ashbrock, and Christopher is the drummer on the Space Invaders tour. And this whole Nashville connection, you're like a fraternity. It's what exactly is going on down there? What's in the water there? Because Seb's down there, you're down there, Marty Fredrickson, Karabi. It's a great fraternity. Talk about Nashville.
Well, it is. I tried to steer away from them. They're troublemakers, you know. So I tried to. No, it does seem to be the place, and I mean, a lot of people play in different bands, and it's a real cool family down here, you know. Christopher, I would say, I've always said it. I mean, he's a phenomenal player. I'd say he's in, you know, the top 10 drummers in metal and hard rock in the world, I'd say. And he's just so good, you know. He's one of these people that he listens to something once, and then he will remember it. It's just amazing how he does it. But there's definitely something here. Either people have moved here, they're transplants from other places, or they've grown up here. But it definitely seems to be the place to be at the moment.
Where do you hear the biggest growth on Evolution compared to the first one?
It's a good question. I think Ronnie's always great, but I think he's grown on this record in terms of the band and what he brought to the first and second albums. The rhythm section, obviously, has grown, I think. The songwriting has grown. I think there's a ballad on this record which wasn't on the first album. I think it shows a different side to the band. There's keyboards on this album. There's two songs. There's "Come Back to Me," which is the ballad, and then there's not really a ballad, but kind of a mid-tempo, kind of Rainbow, Deep Purple-esque song called "Keeper of the Keys," which is also Adam Wakeman on keyboards. And it just brings another side to the band, I think. Just a fantastic performance by Adam. And really takes the band somewhere else. I think melodically, sonically, it's an improvement on the first one. And you want it to be, don't you? Otherwise, there's not much point in doing one. You want it to be an improvement on your former output. But I think it ticks all boxes and it shows the growth of the band. And I think that's important on all levels.
You know, you talk Andy Sneap, your bandmates in Priest, but then when he's producing the Elegant Weapons, he has to put his producer hat on. Do those lines ever blur? Like in a sound check, you know, maybe you're doing something and all of a sudden you'll look at them and you guys think, oh, this is Elegant material or anything like that?
Not really. I think he can bring his expertise into the live scenario, you know, and vice versa. From the live scenario, there's not many producers, I think, that have that closer relationship with the band that they play with in the studio, because he plays with us live. He knows what the band sounds like live. So when we do a Priest record, he's got that intimate understanding of what the band sounds like close up, you know, which not many people, producers have. Mm-hmm. So I think he can help in both ways. So I think it's a good thing.
So Evolution, anything left over from years ago that made it on here? How do you write? Is it all from scratch, or is it just continuously?
It's both, really. It's both. You can come up with new stuff. And then you think, hold on, I've got this riff that can go with that, you know, and it can be a riff from 15 years ago. It's just whatever you come up with, or vice versa. There's a song on there, Bridges Burn. That riff has been around for at least 15 years. The main riff, and it could never find a home. I never found a proper home for it. I come up with something new in the same key, and I think, hold on, I've got something that can go with that. Try that out, and it worked. And then the rest of the song falls into place. Other songs like Generation Me started from scratch and finished in one session. Others take years to put together. The ballad, again, it's another one. I think I had the chorus when I was in Lauren Harris's band. Couldn't find a home for it. I actually brought it to the Priest writing sessions for Invincible Shield. It was in another format. So it was the chorus and a different verse, and it was okay. It was not bad. And I've actually got a version of Rob singing it. But for some reason, didn't light up the room. No one was into it. Didn't happen. Did some more work on it, and again found a home on the Weapons record. So sometimes they're spontaneous and they hit you like a ton of bricks. Other times they take literally years to put together. So I might come up with riffs now that didn't make this album, but they might make the next. I don't know. In the next 10 years, they might pop up again.
Oh, sure. Well, let's get into my notes because, like I said, I have an advance of it and I love it. We'll get into a lot of it, but The Devil Calls. Let's see. Where'd this idea come from? That synth.
Well, I'm always trying to get synth
intro.
on stuff. I'm a big synth fan. I was brought up in the early 80s. So I'm a big fan of synth sound. I was into Duran Duran and Flock of Seagulls and stuff like that when I was a kid. I'm sure I've got a synthwave album in me somewhere. You know what I mean? But so it came from a guitar riff, and it's one of those things I was kicking around, tried it on synth, and it's definitely a song that's got a little bit more 80s metal influence on it. But that's where it came from. It came from a guitar riff that then spawned a synth riff, and then it spawns another riff from there, and then off you go. You're off to the races,
Yeah, I couldn't help see the similarities, like with the Last Priest, Invincible Shield. The open Panic Attack. As soon as I heard it, I'm like, so then I started thinking to myself, I wonder if Richie was in the synth
there you go.
period.
There you go.
And
that's
just
the
sort of,
sign. That's the synth creeping its way in again. You know what I mean? So maybe I need to scratch the itch a bit more and do that synth album. So that's how it happens.
Now, you talk about you had a guilty pleasure of some early 80s synth bands. Duran Duran, you mentioned. What other bands were you into that?
Like Nick Kershaw, Bryan Adams, Ultravox, The Police. You name it. All the stuff, all the great pop music that was out at the time. I'd argue pop music these days isn't the same. I think a lot of people will agree with me, but... You had some great pop music back then, some great instrumental players, all that stuff. Do you remember that 99 Red Balloon song, Nina? Nina, yeah.
Oh, Nina Hartley?
I can't remember, but all that
Nina
stuff, because I was
Hartley
exposed to it on the radio, and you can't choose your influences sometimes, Sometimes that's just what you're exposed to, and sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes those influences cross over into your songwriting, and you'd never know listening to certain things, but that's kind of what's in there, and that's what's being distilled out in another way, maybe.
A quick sidebar, James Rivera, lead singer of Houston band Hellstar, he released a album, metal versions of new wave bands like The Cure and a lot of that stuff, because he always saw similarities between new wave and heavy metal. And he's a big goth guy, vampires and all that. So it's sort of like the distant cousin of metal, if you will, because, you go back 45 years and it's just a different kind of flavor to the hard rock
there's a song,
scene.
Iran by the Flock of Seagulls. I always hear a metal version of that, like a hard rock version of that. So maybe I'll have a go at that one day. Because, the 80s was like 40 odd years ago. And they're still kind of around, If you go back from the 80s 40 years, you're in the 40s. So it's amazing, you know what I mean? So it's amazing how long the 80s music is still with us and how potent it was and still is all those years later.
Well, like 40 years ago, David Lee Roth's doing his solo album, and he's pulling from stuff that was 30, 40 years before that. Frank Sinatra and, Coconut Grove, all that. But Dave's a different beast. Another track I'm digging, Thrown to the Wolves. The midsection.
I don't know, man. I don't know where any of it comes from. It's just, I'm sitting with the guitar. My biggest inspiration really is the guitar. So I've got them all around everywhere like paintings, and I'm inspired by them. And I sit down and play them, and that stuff jumps out, So it's a bit more of a bluesy track. I had a friend of mine, Jared James Nichols, who lives not too far from me, come around. I was out with him one night, and I asked him, can you play a song? Can you play a solo on one of the songs I have for this new record? And he came around and smashed it. He plays the second solo on the song, and it really brings something different to the song, a bit more fire. He's got that blues nuance and attitude in his playing anyway, and it really brings a different dynamic to the song. So I'm glad he could do that.
Well, that's what I was talking about. There was definitely a different energy going on the second half, maybe the second solo, and that explains it. Let's see. And then album opener, Evil Eyes. Absolutely killer track. Talk about the solo.
Well, as I said, like Bridges Burn was an introduction to the record, let people know that the album's coming out. It's an introduction to people that might not know who the band is. This is what the band's about. That was Bridges Burn, and it's the same thing with the record. So they put the record on. The first track is Evil Eyes, and it's an introduction to what the record's going to be. This is what the record's about. This is what the band's about. And this is what you've got coming, really. And for any fans that were a fan of the band up until now, it's like a reintroduction. This is hopefully what you like about the band, and this is what it's going to be moving forward. So, an introduction. We thought it was an appropriate introduction to the record.
Well, the record definitely has an old feel to it, the sequencing. It's a definitely put it on and you go from track to track. And that's what I enjoyed about it most. Richie, I'm going to be honest with you. I would take it to the gym. I would listen to it. And there was times I would stop and just listen to the song, and you really captured it. So talk about the sequencing. Did you preconceive that's what you wanted it to present itself that way?
As you mentioned, you listen to stuff like an album. An album's put together like an album. I don't know if things are done that way these days as much anymore, but we still try and do it. And it's one of the most difficult things I find. You get your opener, you get your second song, and you got your finisher. The finisher was Keeper of the Keys. It was an obvious one to me. But then everything else is really difficult. You've got to have that kind of the dynamic that flows through the record and tell a story throughout the record,
Yeah.
So it's a really difficult, it's a challenging thing for me to do, but we think we got it right. And the closer, there was Keeper of the Keys. It finishes in such a way that we couldn't really put anything after it. I couldn't find a song that could come after that. It kind of finishes in a climactic way, and it just left me thinking, well, that was the end of the record. You can't argue with that. So that was an obvious one. But everything else, it takes some toing and froing, but we felt like we got it right in the end.
Is this going to see the stage?
It's important, really. We think it's vital, really. We all live to play live. We love to play live to people. And these songs come alive when we play to people. And you know what it's like? You go and see a band live, and it usually starts a relationship for life. If you dig that band, you might not have heard of that band before, and you think, who's this? And you watch their set, and you start a relationship that never ends, So it's a big component of it for us. So we're out with Priest in the summer, so we're looking maybe the fall, maybe towards the end of the year, to get some Weapons dates in the States or Europe or whoever will have us. So we're putting that together. So we'll let you know as soon as we solidify those dates. Absolutely.
Oh, definitely. That's and you're spot on. You go see a band, you want to be won over, if you will. Well, you talked about Priest. What's going on in the Priest camp? You got the doc coming out. Yesterday was the 50th of Sad Wings. You got the summer tour.
Well, yeah, absolutely. As you said, we're going out in the summer. We just spent a month in the studio laying down the foundation for what's going to be the next album. Obviously got no release dates or anything like that, but we've started the next record. And it's funny, you know, I joined Priest 15 years ago on a farewell tour, and here we are 15 years later putting down the foundations for what's going to be the next record. You know, it's an amazing thing that they've been going this long and they've still got that creative energy and passion for it. They're still touring, still putting out music, and I think the world's a better place for it. Not just because I'm in the band, but I think the world's a better place that Priest's in it and putting out new music as well, you know. So only good stuff, really.
Well, Richie, don't minimize yourself. You're there for a third of the time, 15 years, and your chapter is excellent. You know, you're in there. You've been in there for 3 or 4 albums now. So, what's the era been like for you personally?
It's a great question. It's been a huge education. Apart from being like a dream come true for, you know, a rock guitar player, you know, great songs, great people, great fans, travel around the world, all that stuff. But it's been a great education. And basically, since I've started, you just kind of get your head down and do what's asked of you. You know, I did the tour initially, then we're going to do another album. And I was lucky enough for them to ask me to come in the studio with them. You do a record, you do another tour, let's do another record. We did another record, and you just kind of do what is asked of you, really. And that seemed to have been the historically the schedule since then. And it's been the schedule, I think, since they started, you know. And historically speaking, you do a record and you get fired up to go on tour. You do a tour and you get fired up to go in the studio. And I think that's how it's continued for the last half a century, you know, and the fans that put them there as well. That can't be ignored. So as long as the fans are there, as long as they've got that creative, that energy to do it, I can't see them stopping, which is an amazing thing to say at over 50 years old, you know?
Oh, I agree. And for a Priest fan, I got into Priest when I was a teenager. Well, I think I was 11. But I'm going to tell you something, Richie. Metal fans are very territorial of their bands. And when you're put in a tough spot of, you know, taking the spot of KK Downing, if you will. But I'm going to tell you, Richie, people have accepted you as their own. Your spot in Priest is solidified. You're an equal in my eyes and many, many, many metal fans. So great job, sir. I
appreciate it. Thank you and the fans for it, you know.
Congratulations.
I think there was some trepidation initially, as there would be after 40 years of someone being in the band, you know. But people came down, they came to the shows, they checked it out. And we're still here 15 years later, you know. I mean, when Ken was in the band, you know, Screaming for Vengeance, Defenders of the Faith, British Steel, I mean, you know, Stained Class, all those albums, I mean,
yeah,
they put metal on the map, you know. So I can only thank you and everyone else and the fans for giving me the chance and for being there, you know, and being so welcoming.
Going to wrap this up, but I just do want to touch on your health. How are you doing? And it's a serious situation.
I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking.
How are you?
There's stuff I have to do these days, but I'm still able to play. I'm still able to write and record and do everything, almost everything that I used to do. So I'm very fortunate in that regard. You know, there's a lot of people worse off. So I'm very fortunate in that regard. I just got to remember to take my meds. I've got to do a lot of physio these days to keep everything moving properly. But as I said, I'm still able to do what I love to do, and I'm grateful for that.
You know, I'm going to share something with you. Last November, I had an aortic valve replacement surgery.
Right, okay.
So once I started getting the research on it, I went and checked out exactly everything you went through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was scary on your end. It was scary. And so
did the microphone ever pick up your valve?
Oh my! All the time. I named it Ricky Tiki Tavi, and people ask me, it's like, does that bother you? I go, no. It would bother me if I didn't hear it.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're like, oh,
absolutely.
No, fair enough.
But I'm never aware of it. I can't hear it. It's like when you live by the coast, you can't hear the seagulls anymore. But when I'm doing a radio interview with a mic near us, or someone puts a mic on my collar, they say, what's that clicking sound? And then it comes through, But I wondered, being so close to the mic, if it picks it up.
It does pick it up. And even my sons will say, Dad, I hear Ricky ticking. I'm like, then we're still good. So
I'm glad you're still here, man. I'm glad you're good.
Yeah, I feel great, man. Absolutely feel great.
Brilliant.
But thank you. Again, Evolution, Elegant Weapons. Check out the YouTube. The new video's out. And Richie Faulkner, thank you for spending the afternoon with us, man.
Thank you, John. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
You got it.
Take care now.
Metal for life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.